Hello and welcome to Startup Hack. Today we are going to talk about .NET Core HTTP client best practices every developer should know about. So let's jump right in. Make sure to check out the link down below because we always provide the code samples that you can pull down and follow along so you can see in our project. Do you want to earn $100,000 a year? Do you want to become a software developer within just 3 months? With our amazing course and awesome tutors, you never have to worry about getting stuck. We help students to learn skills that companies want to hire. We are Startup Hack. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. So let's get started. Alright, let's start with always set the accept request header. Setting the accept header on the request with the content meme type such as application JSON allows the API to know what format the client expects the response content to be in, that is the format the client supports. If the API supports multiple data formats, then it will be able to return the data in the format the client will be able to understand. The accept request can either be set on the HTTP client or can be set on the request object itself. Note that defining the required content type on the accept request header is often described as being part of content negotiation. However, content negotiation can be used to specify much more than just the content type, including version, language, encoding, etc. Okay, now the next thing is using streams when reading responses. When calling a web API, we would often follow a process, wait for response and its content to completely arrive, parse content to a string, deserialize the string to an object. We can cut out the use of this intermediary string object in step 2 by reading the response content as a stream and then providing the stream directly to the serializer. This will lower our memory usage as well as often improving performance. This example demonstrates how we can achieve this when using JSON.NET in .NET Core. Alright, start reading response content ASAP. When using an instance of HTTP client, by default any request made will consider the response ready to use once the entire response has arrived, headers plus body content. Following on the form in the improvement in the use streams when reading responses section, where we no longer use on intermediary string object and instead use a stream, we can tell the HTTP client that we want to start reading the response content once the response header has arrived, rather than once the entire response has arrived. We can do this by passing HTTP completion option argument true when calling send async on the client. So here's example. The response content should then be read as a stream in the same way as in the use stream when reading responses section. Okay, now define custom content types. Define your own custom content types that encapsulate different common content types used by your HTTP client. For example, custom JSON content and XML content types that derive from string content. So here's example. These types can be used on the HTTP request message that we send from sync. So here's example. Okay, let us see another best practice. Check the response status code. Never assume a request work. Instead, always check the response HTTP status code before examining the response content. So here's example. Okay, so there is one more. Check the response content on errors. In particular situations, the API might return a client request error or server error. After examining the response code, it is usually a good idea to read the response content as it often has additional useful information on the problem. So here's example. In this case, handling a 400 bad request response error by retrieving the details from the content. Many APIs don't use a status code in a very specific way. For example, simply running a 400 or 500 whenever there is a problem, or even just returning 200 in all situations. Determining the actual problem from these codes alone can be quite difficult, so inspecting the response content as well is usually recommended. Alright, check the response content type. You may have set the accept type on your client, but that does not guarantee the API will play ball and return content in the data format you specified. For this reason, it is recommended that before examining or deserializing the response content, you check the response content type is what you expect. This way you can better handle the response appropriately. So here's an example. It should be noted that this is not a foolproof way of determining the response the content data format, as an API can still possibly lie and send data of a different format to the one specified in the response header. Alright, there's one more best practice. Use cancellation tokens. Making HTTP calls to an API can be a relatively slow process in a comparative computing terms, so you should provide the option to cancel calls. This also allows you to free up resources as quickly as possible. HTTP clients asynchronous methods such as send async provide the ability to pass in cancellation token. So for example, here, okay, so the last best practice is use compression when dealing with large responses. If the API supports it, you may be able to state you want the response to be compressed, hence reducing its size over the wire. So here's an example. There's always an added overhead to using compression, so simply requesting all responses be compressed regardless of the response content size will probably not be a good idea. The larger the response, the more likely you are to gain a performance improvement using compression. As with everything, it's best to test. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned these best practices of HTTP client. So don't forget to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon for latest updates. To joining our course, you can simply go to our website called startuphack.com. Thank you.